The chamber was made of light, crystalline arches humming with contained starlight, echoing faintly with a translated murmur of 12,000 alien dialects, and one silence. That silence belonged to Earth. High above the spiraled platforms of the Galactic Council, the imperial sigil of the Cerati Empire rotated like a crown of bones. Below it, 3 Cerati dignitaries floated in translucent zero-gravity thrones, skin glassy, eyes like furnace coals. Behind them, the footage played on loop, grains of ash falling where children once stood. No music, no explanation, just silence, then static. The message was unambiguous, hissed Viceroy Hulex, his mandibles clicking softly. 77 million. Civilian class. Ages 6 through 12. All in one planetary rotation. Sector 12 Epsilon Blue. Confirmed. No one blinked. Some species couldn't. Others no longer dared. A jelly-skinned Sarathan flinched as the footage repeated. Tiny bodies on playgrounds curled under blankets eating breakfast before the broadcast flash. White light, then no bodies. Only scorched outlines. Then came the voiceover. Robotic. Calm. Operation Lilac Rebirth complete. Imperial authority enforced. A Kalari senator adjusted his breath mask and muttered. It was meant to break their will. A demonstration. Nothing more. From the rear of the chamber, an Ilex, living crystal and minister of diplomatic ethics, turned slowly. You do not demonstrate on children, he said in cold resonance. You do not stream it. The Cerati shrugged in the air. The humans would have done the same. So volatile, so emotional, so American. Then the silence stirred. It began with the sound of shoes. One by one, heads turned toward the sound. No teleporter glow. No arrival shuttle. Just the soft, patient click of leather soles on stone. A man walked calmly down the central aisle, mid-40s, light brown skin, polite smile, silver-rimmed glasses. Unarmed. Undeclared. No entourage. No announcement. Just a folder tucked under one arm and a ceramic travel mug in the other. He was humming something under his breath. Elvis, maybe. Or something older. Security didn't stop him. Not because they didn't notice, but because something about him made it feel inappropriate. Like shouting in a church. He stopped at the central podium and looked up. David Ross, he said, voice mild Midwestern. Special Envoy of Earth. The chamber vibrated. Not from him, but from the automated systems struggling to locate a file on him. No clear record. Just one word flashing in the Galactic Archive Index. Classified. Earth SEC 9 ohms. The Viceroy squinted. We did not request Earth's presence. David smiled. That's all right. Earth didn't request permission to grieve either. A murmur rolled through the chamber like a rising tide. The Lixery delegate, wearing a featureless obsidian mask, leaned forward. You've come alone? David sipped his coffee. Americans usually do. He set the folder down with a soft thud. The sound was ordinary, paper brushing stone. But it echoed like a gavel. I'm here to formally file a notice of condolence, David said. The chamber stiffened. In galactic protocol, such a notice was a diplomatic overture, a final peace offering before retaliation. It was the step before the scream. The Cerati blinked slowly. You bring no warships, no weapons. You offer condolences. David opened the folder. Inside were photographs, not of soldiers, but of children. Laughter frozen in time. Stick figures on lunchboxes. Little flags. Toothless grins. Earth mourns, he said. We mourn the way we were taught. By lighting candles. By singing hymns. By building legacies. The Ilex whispered. And what legacy do you plan to build, Mr. Ross? David's smile didn't reach his eyes. You ever hear the story of the American Boogeyman? Confusion flickered. He continued. We invented monsters to scare our children into staying safe. We told stories so they'd know which shadows to avoid. And we taught them one thing. When monsters come for your family, you don't run. You become something worse. Vokhtar, a military advisor from the Grell Dominion, scoffed. Are we to fear your bedtime tales? No, David said, setting his mug down. You're to fear what happens when we run out of stories and start making reality. Silence. Then David added almost gently, and make no mistake, the story begins today. One of the younger delegates laughed nervously. And what? You'll cry us to death? Sue us in council court? This is not some Earth courtroom drama. David looked at him with a kind of calm that rots teeth. No. No lawsuits. No debates. Earth doesn't argue after funerals. We remember. We prepare. We redecorate. Redecorate, the delegate asked, squinting. David leaned forward slightly. We make sure your walls remember us. He retrieved a small device from his pocket. Activated it. A hologram bloomed, a star map. Red dots blinked across dozens of sectors. What's that? Someone muttered. Nothing yet, David said. Just funeral invitations. You'll know when they're delivered. The map pulsed once, then collapsed into darkness. David retrieved his mug, turned to leave, then paused, just briefly, at the threshold. Oh, one more thing, he said, as if he'd forgotten his keys. You might want to leave your doors unlocked. A Lixery delegate hissed. Why? David smiled warmly. Because if we knock, it's already too late. He exited the chamber without another word. His footsteps, now softer, felt like countdowns. Behind him, murmurs grew sharp. A dozen translators re-verified every syllable. The words weren't threats. Not directly. Not legally. But the tone, the rhythm, the feel, it was war wearing a tuxedo. The Cerati viceroy whispered, what was that? The Ilex turned its crystalline face. That was an obituary, viceroy, written politely. And across the galaxy, as planetary governments reviewed Earth's sudden silence, strange things began to happen. In Sector X-11, a mining AI began reciting children's rhymes. In the Oral Nebula, a top Empire general found his name etched into a wall, burned in, not written. And in the deepest archive on Galactic Hub Station, a forbidden file unlocked itself. It contained 3 images. A silhouette in a cowboy hat, smiling at a burning field. A man in cargo shorts, drinking coffee as warships fell behind him. A pale, bald figure in a chapel full of candles, writing names. At the bottom, one word, unleashed. And above it, the phrase, don't wake the baby. The footage stopped looping. The Empire's broadcast signal, once cold and efficient, cut to static. Then, for the first time since the massacre, a new human transmission came through. One line, low and echoing. The stars are very quiet tonight. Don't you wonder why? The Lixery call it the blue season. A superstition. A myth, they claimed, until it returned. It began with the static. Across 17 systems, untraceable pulses bled into the comm networks. First, they were faint. Then rhythmic. Then words. Human words. Rockabye, baby, in the treetop. Technicians froze, translators spun. It wasn't a language, it was a lullaby. An old one. American. Obsolete. By the time it reached the throne world of the Cerati Empire, it had morphed into something deeper. Layered. Buried beneath the melody was a binary transmission, a kill code. It wiped their surveillance arrays clean. Then the snow fell. Artificial snow, carbon-based, slow and soft like sorrow. It blanketed the outer domes of their capital, drifting without wind. Someone tasted it. Ash. Not Earth's, of course. That would be impossible. But it smelled like burnt cedar and cinnamon, Christmases lost to time. At first, they thought it a prank. Some symbolic retaliation. Primitive. Harmless. Then, the weapon stations failed. The entire Saryan defense grid, a spiked halo orbiting the Empire's capital, flickered, fizzled, and shut down. No warning. Just a silent cascade. The lead engineer whispered, "We've been dismantled." But there were no ships. No fleet in orbit. Just Earth silence, now pressing like an unseen tide. Inside a mid-tier listening post on the edge of the Kale Belt, Lieutenant Raynarova of the Cerati 2nd Command sipped lukewarm CAF and stared at the empty starfield. "Still nothing," her superior grunted. "Still quiet," she replied. "No human movement. No deployments. Just silence. But you're picking up something, aren't you? She hesitated. Yes. But it's not military. Then what is it? She tapped her earpiece and turned the volume up. Out of the speakers came faint crackles. Then music. Piano. Soft, simple chords. No words. Just the kind of tune a grandmother might hum while folding laundry. Human-made. Earthfolk called it home music. I think they're broadcasting comfort, Ray whispered. Her commander scoffed. Comfort is not a weapon. She didn't answer, but her eyes lingered on the distant shimmer of Saturn's rings. Something felt wrong. Off-key. Then came the thunder. Sector Delta. 93 lost contact with its main cruiser fleet at 0200 standard. No distress call. Just one final log entry, found scrawled across the captain's chair in permanent marker. You made us remember. Now we make you regret. No wreckage. No bodies. Just silence. Again, a meeting was convened aboard the Grell Dreadnought Savior's Claw. High-ranking military officials, Dominion tacticians, and Cerati admirals gathered to plan Earth's subjugation. They laughed at the lullabies. They're stalling. It's psychological theater. They're grieving. Human ritual. Give them a week, then we strike. But a young Grell lieutenant stood at the edge of the war table, uncertain. His name was Cawthon. He'd studied Earth's history. Obsessively. He raised a hand. Permission to speak? Granted. The admiral said with a lazy wave. Cawthon stepped forward. I do not believe this is theater. I believe it is choreography. The room chuckled. Someone muttered, another poet. But Cawthon pressed on. The humans are not grieving. They are setting tempo, conditioning us. They know our minds are built for reaction, not anticipation. A silence fell. What are you implying? The commander asked. Cawthon looked down at the map. I believe Earth has no intention of fighting a traditional war. I believe they are constructing a stage. Far away, in orbit around an abandoned Terran outpost near Europa, a lone alien probe drifted silently. Inside, the monitor flickered, then changed. A figure appeared. A man. He was tall, lean, wearing cargo shorts, a NASA hoodie, and holding a coffee cup that read, #OneDad. His beard was patchy. His expression unreadable. He looked directly at the camera. Hey there, he said with a grin. Didn't mean to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming. He sipped his coffee. You don't know me. That's good. Let's keep it that way. I go by Mac. Just Mac. Some folks call me the American Boogeyman, but that's just branding. He stepped closer. No ships. No guns. Not yet. Just wanted to say something. The smile dropped. You killed our kids. The feed trembled slightly, like the signal itself recoiled. You didn't just take lives. You told the whole galaxy we're not allowed to matter. And that's fine. But we've been kind. We've been patient. We've been small. His voice dropped to a whisper. We're not small anymore. Mac reached forward, tapped the camera lens. And the feed cut. Across 47 sectors, the same message played. The same smile. The same coffee. The same chill. At the Central Council Nexus, the ILEX convened an emergency meeting. Counselor Therax, glimmering in ice blue light, asked the question no one else would say aloud. Do we fear them now? A Lixery delegate, usually stoic, said quietly, not yet. But we should. And a Sarathan ambassador, her gelatinous form rippling with unease, whispered, they are not planning a war. They are becoming it. On the third moon of Veridon Prime, beneath a chapel burned decades ago, in a skirmish long forgotten, a man in civilian clothes lit a candle. One candle. Then two. Then 77 small ones. Each bore a name. He did not speak. He did not blink. He wrote each name in a journal, in ink darker than oil. Then, once the candles were lit, he stood and faced the wall. There, written in chalk, were 3 words. Balance is due. His name was Elijah. He had no rank, no medals, no birth record. Just a whisper in human intelligence circles. The male Baba Yaga. He had not spoken in 10 years. He would not speak again until the day the stars burned blue. Somewhere else, on a quiet Terran moon station meant for agriculture. Now deserted, machines began to hum. They were not weapons. They were printers. They printed maps. Handwritten, annotated, illustrated. Each one showed a different alien military base. Each was folded carefully, stained with what appeared to be hot chocolate, and sealed with a child sticker. No instructions. No threats. Just one line on the back of each. You took our futures. We drew you new ones. And in the Empire's flagship battlecruiser, Crown of Ascension, Admiral Jax Tharn received a package. No origin. No return stamp. Inside a music box. He opened it. It played an Earth tune. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. His hands trembled. Inside the lid was a photo of a little girl. Human. Smiling. Holding a sparkler. On the back, her name was Sadie. She liked peanut butter. You streamed her death. We streamed your coordinates. As panic slowly swelled and strategies unraveled, Earth still had not fired a single shot. Not one human fleet launched. Not one battalion deployed. No battles. No kills. Just memories. Just reminders. Just echoes. Then, one final transmission. From David Ross. He stood in a quiet room, sunlit, books behind him. He held a single flower. A marigold. Galactic friends, he said warmly. I hope this message finds you safe. Pause. I'm just here to say, we understand now. You don't fear us when we shout. You only fear us when we're quiet. He placed the marigold in a glass of water. And we've been so very quiet. The screen went black. And across the galaxy, on moons and stations and palaces and bunkers, a single word appeared on every system. Owl. The first coffin arrived on a diplomatic cruiser. No crew. No transmission. No distress flare. Just a single pod drifting into the landing bay of Dominion Station 9, charred around the edges like a dying ember. Inside was no body, just a folded military coat and a nameplate etched in Terran steel. Commander Vren Talek. Talek was not dead. He was very much alive. At least, he had been 5 hours ago when he'd ordered reconnaissance over Earth's northern hemisphere. By the time the coffin reached the station, however, no one could find him. His entire ship had gone dark. All 27 of his crew had vanished without trace. No wreckage. No signal decay. Just absence. 2 hours later, a second coffin arrived. This one drifted to the capital moon of the Tsar Collective. Same design. Same folded coat. Different name. Vice Admiral Kull Vorik. Still breathing in the last council meeting. Now a ghost. The coffin's lining was soaked, not in blood, but ink. Black ink, thick and fragrant, spelling out a single Terran word across the interior lid. Remembrance. Within 12 standard hours, 26 more arrived. Not with corpses, but warnings. The coffins were the message. The Empire dismissed them at first, called it theater. Humans don't have the reach, one general insisted. They're bluffing. We have satellites in every Terran orbit. But when those satellites started transmitting children's songs instead of telemetry, something cracked beneath the smugness. In the war room aboard the Crown of Ascension, Grand Strategist Luroth paced behind his carved obsidian desk. His nerves twitched every time the lights dimmed. 3 days ago, he'd mocked the lullabies. Today, his hands shook when he heard them. They haven't fired a weapon, he muttered. No, replied his communications officer. But every system we've lost vanished without force. No battle. No heat signatures. Just silence. Luroth leaned over the holographic map. What kind of enemy sends coffins before they kill? The officer hesitated, then said quietly, the kind that's already decided you're dead. Back on Earth, beneath the frostbitten Colorado ranges, inside a bunker lined with books and satellite feeds, David Ross sat at a circular table sipping tea. He wore a navy cardigan, soft brown loafers, a pocket watch. Next to him sat Elijah, still silent, a candle burning beside his left hand. He wore gray cotton. No shoes. His wrists were scarred with tiny ink dots, like someone had tried to stitch stories into his veins. Have they opened them yet? David asked. Elijah nodded once. David smiled faintly. Good. He poured more tea. The kettle hissed like a sleeping serpent. On the wall above them, 27 names glowed blue. Next to each, confirmed. They'll retaliate, said a third voice, deeper amused. Mac leaned against the far wall, arms folded, his ever-present travel mug steaming beside a loaded shotgun. David didn't look at him. We're not giving them war, Mac. We're giving them regret. Mac raised an eyebrow. You sure regret fits in a coffin? David glanced toward Elijah. Elijah looked up, eyes distant, as if staring through time. Then he spoke for the first time in days. Regret fills more than a coffin. It fills empires. His voice was smooth, cold, carefully measured. Mac gave a low whistle. Well, hell. Baba Yaga speaks. Should I pour champagne? Elijah stood, walked to the map, and drew a circle around sector Epsilon 9. Next. David nodded. Make it ceremonial. In orbit over that very sector, High Inquisitor Drax of the Cerati Empire screamed at his officers. You said Earth was contained. We did contain them. Their fleets haven't moved. Their beacons are dormant. They sent me a coffin with my name on it. Drax hurled the black lacquered box across the chamber. It hit the wall with a hollow thunk and split open. Out tumbled a child's drawing. Stick figures. One alien. One human. Holding hands. At the bottom, pieces taught. Not given. It was signed in crayon. Sadie, age 8. Drax stared at it, then slumped into his throne. What is this? What kind of madness? His aide whispered, Sir, maybe they're not trying to win. Drax turned slowly. What? The aide swallowed. Maybe they're trying to be remembered. The coffins kept coming. One to every known fleet admiral. One to every planetary governor who had signed off on Operation Lilac Rebirth. Some arrived via wormhole. Others were hand-delivered by drones that disassembled themselves upon delivery. No two were identical, but every one was lined with Terran relics, a pacifier, a school photo, a burnt page of a bedtime story. One even contained a glass jar labeled First Snow, Colorado, Earth. Aliens stopped sleeping. Empires stopped laughing. Back in the bunker, Elijah sat cross-legged, running his fingers along an old wooden board carved with the names of the lost. He didn't look up when David entered. We're done delivering symbols, Elijah said. It's time to deliver choices. David lowered himself into the chair beside him. You mean terms? Elijah shook his head. No, we won't offer surrender. That would imply we're open to compromise. Mac entered behind them, flipping a coin, whistling. You boys sure are making this poetic. Want me to just send the damn fleet already? No fleet, David said. No mercy, Elijah whispered. No problem, Mac grinned. Just say the word. On a forgotten moon, deep within a derelict listening post, a low-ranking alien technician wiped dust from an old Earth relic, a music box they'd looted from a Terran orphanage years ago. When he opened it, it played not music, but a voice. Hi, said a child's voice. My name was Mara. I was 9. I like stars and string cheese. I died on camera, but that's not what matters. The music box clicked once. What matters is we remembered. A countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The post vanished. In the central Galactic Council chamber, the alarms began to fail. Screens shimmered, then dimmed. The artificial intelligence systems meant to protect and predict began producing nonsense. Haikus, family recipes, quotes from Earth literature. Then the Council's mainframe spat out a single phrase in English. We do not knock. Max stood in the dim-lit hallway of the Terran Command substation, polishing a rifle he hadn't used in years. The air smelled like oil and salt. He wasn't smiling anymore. David approached quietly. They're afraid now. Mac nodded. Good. Took them long enough. Elijah entered, holding a folded flag. We sent 20 more. 1 to their empress. David's eyes darkened. What did we include? Elijah placed the flag gently on the table. A doll. Handmade. Stitched with her daughter's name. Mac whistled low. Now that's cold. No, Elijah said, his voice distant. That's memory. David turned toward the console, and flicked a switch. All across the galaxy, the stars pulsed once. Every major system received a final transmission. Just 5 words. This was your rehearsal scream. And deep within the void, where even sensors dared not look, a coffin slowly turned, sealed tight, silent as guilt. Inside, a note. 1 line. You only thought they were gone. Then the stars blinked, and something began to move beneath them. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Empire was a miracle of engineering. A sphere of glass and gravity-suspended quartz orbiting the dying blue sun of Velcro's prime. It was designed to intimidate, to echo power with every word spoken inside its curved walls. Today it trembled. Representatives of the Empire's inner worlds stood shoulder to shoulder, murmuring beneath heavy ceremonial robes. The Empress herself had broken tradition and appeared without her diamond veil. Her 3 hearts beat erratically. Across her dais, the Lixery ambassador's obsidian mask was cracked down the center, revealing an eye that had not blinked in 3 hours. The last message from Earth had been simple. No bluster. No demands. No movement of ships. Just 5 words. This was your rehearsal scream. Now, they waited for Earth's answer, whatever shape it took. At exactly the 10th hour of the assembly cycle, the center platform hissed open. No grand entrance. No trumpets. No guards. Just 3 humans walking calmly into the chamber. David Ross wore a dark gray suit, tailored and weathered like it had lived through more than 1 war. Max strolled behind him, hands in his jacket, chewing gum, sunglasses on indoors. Elijah, barefoot and silent, carried a single black book bound in stitched leather. None of them smiled. A low gasp rustled the delegates. Many had never seen humans in person, let alone walked into a room where they were expected to explain the arrival of thousands of empty coffins to military leaders who no longer answered their beacons. David stepped forward. Thank you for assembling on short notice. The Empress spoke first. Earth has not filed formal grievance protocol. Earth has not issued conditions for ceasefire. David nodded. Because we're not asking for a ceasefire. Murmurs rose. A crystalline delegate stood, voice quivering. Then what have you come for? Mac chuckled, slow and dry. We came to give you closure. Closure, the Empress repeated. David's eyes met hers. You didn't just kill our children. You desecrated the memory of their lives by televising their deaths. That broadcast wasn't just a tactic. It was a choice. And choices come with balance. A serpentine delegate hissed, You seek vengeance. No, Elijah said softly. We seek accuracy. The room quieted. His voice was rarely recorded, and even less often understood. But now they listened. David reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of cloth. He held it up, a small, charred flag. Its edges were blackened, its stripes faded. This was found in the ruins of Sector 12 Epsilon Blue. It belonged to a classroom. The teacher didn't make it out. Neither did the 34 students. But this did, and it speaks louder than we ever could. A map appeared on the hologrid. It showed the known Empire territories. Dots began to blink, blue dots. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. These are your systems, David said. Well, not yours anymore. One by one, the dots turned black. We didn't send soldiers. We didn't fire. We just corrected. The Lixery ambassador's voice shook. What did you do? Elijah opened his black book. We reminded the stars what silence looks like. Behind them, screens lit up. Not of destruction. Not of fire or collapse. Just silence. Planets still spinning. Empty. Abandoned. Bases running perfectly. No crew. No deaths. Just absence. The kind humans knew intimately. You emptied them, one delegate gasped. Mac blew a bubble. Nah. They left themselves. You just didn't realize it. A chorus of protest broke out. Impossible. Lies. Sorcery. David stepped back. Let the room spiral. Then Elijah spoke again. You killed what we loved. So we erased what you believed you owned. No war, asked the Empress. No, David said. Just subtraction. The Empress stood now, tall and trembling. "You think yourselves gods?" "No," Mac said, stepping forward at last. "But we're damn good at math." A new screen emerged. This one was Live Feed. It showed a fleet, dozens of Empire cruisers drifting through the Verge Nebula. Each began to blink. One by one, their engines failed. Not an explosion, not sabotage, just surrender. The ships shut themselves down, lights fading into blue. "They're choosing shutdown," the Empress whispered. "They were infected years ago," Elijah murmured. "You didn't notice the code in the children's songs." The Empress turned, voice shrill. "You embedded." "We embedded grief," David interrupted. "We embedded memory. We turned lullabies into programming languages. Tea recipes into Trojan maps. You wanted to see what happens when a species decides not to forget." The delegates looked helpless now, like nobles in a dream that refused to end. Mac stepped forward and set a music box on the dais. He wound it once. It began to play "You Are My Sunshine." As it turned, a projection spun above it. Scenes of Earth's children, not dying, living, laughing, running through fields, painting their dreams. Then slowly the images changed into names. 1,000,000 names, then 10 million, then 77 million. "We archived every one," Elijah said. "You tried to burn memory. You only made it eternal." A warrior among the delegates tried to rise. "We will retaliate." Mac grinned and tilted his head. "How?" "We didn't fire. We didn't threaten. We told bedtime stories and made your machines listen." The Empress slammed her staff into the floor. "We are the Empire." David looked at her, face unreadable. "So were we." A new light emerged, this one not from Earth, but from space itself. The blue sun of Velcros, for a moment, burned white. Then every screen blinked in unison. A child's voice came over the speaker. "I forgive you." Delegates froze. "I forgive you," it repeated. Then again, and again. Thousands of voices. Every planet, every feed. Children's voices. Real, not synthetic. The AI of the Empire's network had been overwritten, not by malice, but by grace. "You made them scream," David said. "We made them sing." The Empress dropped her staff. "Is it over?" she whispered. Elijah turned the last page of his book. He closed it. "For you?" "Yes." And then the stars changed. Above them, the heavens shifted hue. From their station window, the assembly watched in silence as the galaxy's rim shimmered. Not red, not gold, blue. A soft blue, like twilight, like morning, like memory refusing to die. The day the stars burned blue would be remembered forever. Not as Earth's revenge, but as its reminder that humans don't scream forever. Sometimes they whisper, and when they do, entire empires kneel.